Good morning, I'm Coach Erin. I'm a breathing coach, a yoga teacher, a physiologist, and I help people breathe well, live well, and speak well, helping leaders become more mindful, helping you become more connected in your life. So I get to walk with you in this journey. I am a virtual coach and I work privately with my clients. This is what I want to teach you today. None of that matters right now. What I want to teach you today is ways that you can see your baseline of breathing. So what I mean by that is, are you breathing in a pattern that is causing more stress in the body? Are you slipping into over breathing? I have 3 tests for you to let you know if your breathing is potentially falling into that dysfunctional category, or what we call breathing pattern disorder. So if you have some disordered breathing, there's a lot of consequences in your mind and body that can come from that. Because if you think of it like this, your breath is supposed to be that thing that modulates the nervous system. And when we talk about nervous system, there's the sympathetic fight or flight nervous system state, and there's the parasympathetic rest and digest. Just to kind of make it simple, let's look at those two. So there's sympathetic fight or flight or freeze, and then there's parasympathetic nervous system state, rest, digest, restore, and recover. You should be able to flow in and out of those throughout the day if your nervous system is healthy. But sometimes, whether it's by an injury, trauma, loss, grief, can really change the breathing pattern that I've seen. Any type of extreme emotion usually, or just very challenging season in your life, potentially even from childhood, if you had a very hard upbringing and a lot of pain and trauma and dysfunction there, you might have been carrying these breathing patterns with you for a very long time. So be gentle. We want to look at the root cause, because usually if we're breathing in a dysfunctional pattern, there's some kind of dysfunction somewhere else, usually mentally. So I always like to pair and refer my clients to a really good mental health counselor, especially if they're dealing with some kind of trauma. Okay, so now we know the whole body and the breath and the mind, they're all connected. You know, I once had a doctor who I was seeing. I've had back surgery before. And when I was postpartum after our second child, I had pelvic organ prolapse, like all these issues going on in my pelvic floor. I was definitely breathing wrong. And I was also having all this back pain, and I was at an orthopedic surgeon's office meeting with the physician's assistant, and she said to me, "Oh no, your low back issues aren't because of your pelvic floor. They're not connected." And I was like, "Thank you for your input. I'm leaving. You're wrong." And I, as a wellness coach, as a physiologist, being in this field of health for over 17 years, I just couldn't even believe that that mentality still exists, where we think that we're not connected. We are so connected. And your breath is that tool for you to really connect with what's going on inside. I think of it as the highway between the mind and the body. It's so interconnected. If your breathing changes, you're going to have more tension, at very least, in the body. Because if you start sucking in on the inhale, like so many people are vertical breathing, and you're sucking in on that inhale, guess what? Your back's tightening, your pelvic floor's tightening, your stomach's tightening, your shoulders are activating every time you breathe. How many times do you breathe throughout the day? Well, we're going to kind of look at that this morning. But between 20 and 25,000 or more, if you're really stressed, times a day, you're doing it all the time. It matters. It matters when we're talking about your health. It's going to be that, especially if you're dealing with chronic pain, it's going to be one of the things you want to work on to support balance in the body, bringing you back to a normal homeostasis, not getting you stuck in chronic fatigue, chronic stress. We want to use our breath as that inside-out tool to manage stress in the body, to send that signal that it's okay. All is well. In our breathing, if we're breathing in a pattern, too fast, too short, too shallow, irregular, that's sending the signal that we are not okay. Things are not right. All right, so it's the input. And our breath, you can change. It's a part of the autonomic nervous system, but it is also voluntary. You can have it under voluntary control. And that's what breath work is, where we're consciously taking some time to breathe in certain patterns and techniques that usually for most people are going to decrease stress and anxiety. So that is a long intro. Thank you for staying with me. If you did, it sounds like you're interested. So now you get to the good stuff for having a decent attention span, which nobody has anymore. We're starting with our breathing rate test. Testing your breathing rate is really important. We need to know how fast we're breathing. If you're breathing too fast, you're going to fall into that over-breathing category. Eventually, over-breathing will lead to unchecked air hunger. Air hunger might lead to panic attacks. So you can see where this extreme of breathing too much can get us into the weeds and really almost perpetuate that anxiety cycle. So we want to come back to the rate, something very simple. It is a little difficult to do. It's a bit subjective, but I'm using a stopwatch. You can use your phone to check it. What I'm asking for you here is to not change your breathing rate. Don't try to change because you're checking in with it. Just breathe how you're usually breathing right now, and I will do a timer for 1 minute. What I'm looking for is 1 inhale, 1 exhale would equal 1 breath. So inhale, exhale, 2, inhale, exhale, 3. You're just counting how many breaths you have in this 1 minute. Are you ready? Make sure you're not driving or doing something else. You're taking time to sit down, and it's helpful to close your eyes so you can concentrate. I will tell you when to begin. I will tell you when to end. We are counting our breaths for 1 minute. When you're ready, close the eyes. Begin. Stop. Very good. So write that number down, put it in your phone. Now you know what your breathing rate is. Subjectively, it can change if you were rushing right before this, or, I want you to check this a few times over the next week and try to get an average of what your breathing rate is. What is healthy is between 8 and 12 breaths a minute. When I first checked myself with this test, when I was first getting certified as a breathing coach, I was under extreme anxiety. I was having panic attacks. I had never breathed like this in my life before, but I had experienced some trauma, and there was an aftermath there. I was breathing 19 or so breaths a minute. I was breathing too fast. That's too fast. So if you're up there in the teens, it's too fast. Now you know. You need to work on a slower breathing rate. Try a 4-second inhale, followed by a 4-second exhale. I call that balanced breath. It'll help reduce that rate. If you're under 8 seconds, you are super relaxed, you are super chill, and just maintain that. That's a wonderful breathing rate. Notice if you have any other dysfunctional patterns as we talk, but I think that's a really healthy place to be. It's the goal, and I understand that not everybody's there. That's fine. This is for us to grow and get better. I have my clients retest this every month if possible at the beginning of the month, just to check in how their breathing rate is. It'll change depending on your stress and anxiety. So start small with that breathing rate check. When you go into say you go into a hospital, guess what the nurses are checking? They're checking your breathing rate. They're not telling you, but they're watching your breathing rate. They're watching the pattern. They're watching if you're here, super stressed. They've been trained to look at that. Your breathing rate is one of your vital signs. Very, very important for health. The next two tests I'm going to do are used to measure your tolerance of CO2, your sensitivity to CO2. Why does that matter? If we're dealing with somebody who has anxiety, stress, pain, trauma, grief, they're going through a hard season, and we know that many people adapt into that dysfunctional breathing pattern, usually of over-breathing. We know that they're very sensitive to CO2. Now, it's going to be opposite of what you've been taught, probably. It was for me when I first learned this. But you don't need to breathe deeper if you're stressed. You don't need to breathe more. You don't need to take in more oxygen, these huge inhales, grasping, reaching for air. When you are stressed, you need to breathe less. You need to breathe slower. You need to actually increase your CO2, not your oxygen. You need to increase that CO2 to create more calm in the body. You also need to breathe in the right pattern, but that's not what we're going to talk about today. There's plenty of videos that I have that you can look into that, or you can connect with me and we can do a little bit of coaching. I can get you in the right path and assess you myself. But today we want to see how sensitive you are to CO2. We do this through breath holds. Now, be careful with this. If you're brand new to a breath hold, be in a calm, safe place where you can do something like this. This isn't a time to practice in your car or when your kids are running around and you're trying to make dinner. This is a time to practice focused and in a safe environment. I'm going to have you take 3 regular breaths. An inhale, exhale is 1, inhale, exhale 2, inhale, exhale 3. So you take 3 regular breaths. At the end of your last, or after the inhale on your last breath, before you exhale, you're going to hold your nose, cover the nose, and hold for as long as you can. This is usually a little bit easier if we're working together, but I'll try to cue it for you. If you have a phone, this would be a great time to pull it out because you'll know when to start and stop. But I'm still going to run you through it so you can see what it feels like. Are you ready? Do you have your phone? Do you need to pause it? Get your phone, get the stopwatch ready, set it for a minute, or just get it ready at 0 and it can count up. Remember, it's going to be 2 full breaths at the top of the last breath. So after the inhale, you're going to cover your nose, hold, and we're just going to hold our breath. Now, when do you need to release your breath is when you first feel that urge to breathe. It's not how long you can hold your breath, because I know a lot of people will push past their limit. I want to be clear. It's when you first feel the urge to breathe. This is a sensitivity test to CO2. You might feel the urge the stomach might move a little bit, the diaphragm might have a little spasm. You might, if you need to swallow, that's an urge to breathe. If you feel something in your chest, you feel a little bit of tightness, it's the first sensitivity to, ooh, I think I need to take a breath. That's where we want to do this measurement, all right? It's not a breath holding contest, it's a sensitivity test. Let's begin. Take a regular inhale, take a regular exhale. That's 1 breath. Take a regular inhale, take a regular exhale. That's 2 breaths. Inhale and hold your breath. Begin your stopwatch. And you hold as long as you feel, or as long as you can, until you feel that little urge. It might just be a few seconds. If you swallow, gulp, belly moves, those are urges. And whenever you're done, just write down the seconds that you were able to hold your breath today. I'm going to give everybody enough time. Okay, that's good. If you did get to a minute, that's wonderful. You're probably not feeling very anxious. You're probably not dealing with breathing pattern disorder. That's great. You can keep that going. If you were at 5, 8, 12 seconds, that's something we're going to want to work on. And how do we work on that? We slow down your breathing. We learn to shut our mouth when we're breathing throughout the day. So nasal breathing is going to automatically slow down your breathing rate and the volume of air coming down. But if you were really low and you felt that sensitivity very early, you're deconditioned in this way and potentially out of balance in that breathing. I want to get your tolerance to CO2 up and maybe decrease how quick, how fast, how much you're breathing in. The inhale excites us. The exhale is connected to that parasympathetic nervous system state. That's like in yoga. When you inhale, you're arching your back, you're taking in that breath. When you exhale, you're drawing in, you're pulling into yourself, you're calming and comforting yourself. With every inhale and exhale, we have and this is heart rate variability, this is what we measure now. We have the ability to excite and calm. Right? So with each breath that's happening, if you are just always exciting the breath, like walking through life like you're exercising, that's how fast you're breathing, you're going to have more stress in the body. You're going to have more of that sympathetic alarm system going off all the time. If we learn to use our exhale to calm, restore comfort, breathing in the right pattern, you're going to have a little bit more of that parasympathetic. And the goal is to balance them. Sympathetic nervous system state is not bad. Let me remind you, it's all about balancing it so you can get into homeostasis and you can function more optimally in all the different systems within your body. But without breath, you have no life. So if you're not getting the breath right, there's going to be dysfunction. That's why I love starting with this. That's why it's one of my favorite interventions for help. Now, and it's free, easily accessible. Everybody has it. Once you learn how to use it, it's always with you. So great, such a wonderful tool. There's nothing fancy you need to do or have to breathe well. Final test, and thank you for staying with me if you've been here this long. I love it. Please comment, please like, please share. This is important stuff that I think we all should have. Final test, and it's testing the same thing. It's your tolerance to CO2. We're just doing it in a different way, a more audible way. I actually think for a lot of clients this is easier to test. Same thing, you're going to inhale, exhale, 3 breaths, but on the last breath it's just an inhale. On the exhale, because we speak on an exhale, on the exhale, you're going to count up. Whatever pace you want, just make sure the next time you test it, you're at the same similar pace. But it would look like this. I take my breaths, and then on the last one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 20. And I go as long as I can. Just even till the voice starts getting kind of quiet at the end when you're running out of breath. Go as long as you can. And let's see your capacity for an exhale. See how you are handling your CO2. And that number usually is something you're going to want to increase over time. Let's begin. Take that inhale, take that exhale, take that inhale, take that exhale. And one more time, take an inhale. On your exhale, begin counting up. 1, 2, 3. Keep going all the way up as long as you can, out loud. See what number you can get up to. No judgment zone. Okay, you're probably done now. Write down that number. You should have 3 numbers now. Your first number is your breathing rate, your second number is your CO2 sensitivity test, and the next one is CO2 capacity test. Those 3 numbers, these 3 tests, come back to this video if you need to, that's fine. Come back to this video, skip the beginning, start when we're starting to assess, and listen, check in every month. If you're doing daily breathing interventions that I teach in my other videos, if you're slowing down that breathing rate, managing your stress well, these numbers should improve. And that's the goal. That's the goal, especially if you're feeling anxiety, stress, pain, grief, if you're going through a hard time. Let's use our inside out tool, that natural tool, to decrease stress and bring our body back into balance. I hope you found this helpful. Breathe well, live well, and speak well.